Terrific. All right, great. All right, so welcome everybody. So if you do not know me, then I am Valerie Sayer. I am a registered and licensed dietitian, certified medical exercise specialist. I have my own private practice for 18 years. I'm a Reiki master, international marketing director. I'm a mom of 5. I've been a tennis player. I've done some marathons, lots of smaller races, natural bodybuilder, 2 contests, and all after my kids were born, by the way, and really proactive about helping athletes find what they need to really go the extra mile, or a coach or a trainer or anybody that is serious about any kind of performance. This is my husband, John. As he said, we met in a gym, Midtown in suburb of Chicago. So I'm going to let him introduce himself. That way you can hear it from him. Yeah. And you'll know him.
Well, I'm here to lend some street cred to the athletic part. I was U.S. champion in the decathlon, so I had the title of America's greatest all-around athlete in 1985. And I like to joke and say, well, maybe that was really, a basketball player named Jordan that happened to be in Chicago where I grew up. But I was a 3-time NCAA champion, or not champion, but 3 Division I All-American in the decathlon, also in the pole vault. So I had, about 15 years of training, 6 to 7 hours a day. That's my street cred in terms of athletic training. Currently, I'm a senior vice president with Wells Fargo. And so I have a very solid business acumen. And then where that plays into in terms of anybody that wants to get into the business of Juice Plus, or if you're a gym owner, I have gym owners that are friends. I have physical therapists that are friends. I have a lot of professionals that are friends that are involved. And I have an aptitude for relating and marketing to people in that regard.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you, John. So first of all, we just want to tell you a little bit what to expect. We will not go longer than an hour. It'll probably take about 40 minutes, 40 minutes, and then we'll make sure we'll have questions at the end. So write them down as you go. And that way we really get whatever it is you came for so that you can get what you needed. So one of the things that I like to start on is, what are your athletic goals, your exercise goals, whether it's exercise, health, performance, body. Like I said, we have 5 kids. This is Heidi, our daughter, our youngest, and she's a volleyball player. She's in her senior year at FAU. And we had a golfer, baseball, not basketball, no basketball, although they did play younger, soccer, and then tennis. And so it's really a lot of fun. We like exercise in our family, if you didn't notice, as well as performance and staying very fit. And, the other thing is you want to really look at, depending on what your client needs, yourself, athlete, trainer, or again, whoever it is you're working with, if you're a coach. So the objectives today and the topics will be Juice Plus, as far as timing with performance and ideal things. What is the proof for in really increasing your body strength, as well as other factors? Of course, staying healthy, because if you have an injury, it really puts a crimp into your training. And then if you need any other kind of support or stability. So first of all, make sure you think about for yourself, because everybody here is here for a different reason, whether they're coach, very athletic, working with someone. We have gym owners, physical therapists. You may, if you're the athlete or working with someone, they might be looking for speed, endurance. Of course, they want to win if they're in any kind of competitive type of performance events. You might want to jump higher, like Heidi with the hops. You want hopefully to be healthy. You certainly need the vitality to perform at a higher level. Strength, you want to be injury free. You certainly want to look at your performance or increase it, whether it's time or whatever it is your event is. And then, of course, some events like wrestlers and so on, bodybuilding, we look at body fat. And then, of course, what your energy is and the output that you can give. One of the things that's difficult, and John can attest to this as a professional athlete, is how do you make a living at it? Unless you make it really big, it's very difficult to train all day long and not have some other kind of income if you don't have a good sponsor or support or so on. So you want to think about too, what are your goals to be able to do and perform if you're an athlete or in that field, or help your athletes do that? How do you cover their overhead for equipment as well as travel? You want to have people, if you're a coach or trainer, long-term clients, and develop that relationship. That's one of the things I think we're both very good at. We've got an Olympian right now, and she's just a fabulous woman. And I mean, I look forward to when she calls me with any of her questions, because she's such a bright light. and incredibly amazing, strong woman. I didn't ask her permission to say her name, so I'm not going to do that today unless she gets on.
Yeah, and I can relate because, over the years, I've been through it myself. I was working full-time, training 6-7 hours a day, 6 days a week. And there are a lot of people out there that have athletic goals and they're trying to meet those goals. And, one of the bonuses of being younger, I suppose, is you can kind of slide on certain things. And I did nutritionally. If I would have known now what I knew then, I would have went through a lot less pain and discomfort, and I would have had bigger and better goals. It's amazing now on the folks that we've worked with. We have young individuals, young ladies, those of you that are in the gym, squatting over 600 pounds for 5 reps. And they're, a 5'6", 215 or 20 pound female. Nutrition plays a huge goal in all this, and Valerie's going to, that's her expertise. So she'll cover through that.
A little bit about that. And obviously we want to stay healthy, whether you're a coach, trainer, PT, or an athlete, because injuries and being sick is what interrupts so much of our events and part of your training. You want results. And that depends. It doesn't matter if it's you or the athlete or even training someone, they want results. And that is where training is a huge part of it. But I tell you, you're going to see the missing components that I see even at athletes at a high end. You certainly want more time freedom to train or do what you need to do. And then, of course, you want to have the benefits of working with a coach, training, and any kind of nutrition. And most people are in it because they like the athletic environment. That's how I met John at Midtown in, a suburb of Chicago, where all of the Bulls would go and different people, because we want a high level environment around people that are very proactive with their health. It's a different language. So it's great to have you guys all here today. So what are some of the missing components that I've seen when I work with high level athletes, trainers, and coaches? These are some of the things. So I'm not going to go into basics. Most of you guys know basics: macronutrients, calorie, ways to measure body fat, all of that. That is not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the things when I've worked with teams or I've worked with individuals that just shocks me that they do not know. One is what phytonutrients are and how they play a part in your performance as well as your recovery. Essential fatty acids that directly affect your inflammatory pathways as well as your processing, with, again, that need to have that instant, hopefully, reaction time, whether you are in the batter's cage or you're out on the football field. Nutrient density, the proof that it's there, and of course the safety if you're a professional athlete being tested, or of course if you're a collegiate athlete. We don't want to ever give anyone anything that is any potential for any kind of contamination to ruin a sponsorship or their whatever it is they're getting supported by. So I want you to think about this first. This is always one of my favorites, because whether you know anyone, I don't know anyone with a racehorse personally, but I like the racehorse, or if you're into cars, you can take a race car. But, if you had a racehorse and it was $1 million horse or a producer, what do you give horses when they deserve a treat? You do not give them M&Ms. You give them an apple. You give them carrots. It's very interesting how we will treat a high level performance animal versus an athlete. Or let's just think about cars. I like to use the car instance. I was just talking this with a colleague, Marilyn, about this, because when people race cars or they're into winning, if I said that, one of the things that's going to happen, Adrian, is that I'm going to make sure you get the red car, because if Adrian picks the red car, he's going to be a millionaire. He's going to be famous. He's going to win the race. But Mary isn't as good a driver. Mary, I'm going to give you the blue car. You're a nice lady, so you're probably going to get second place. You're going to probably get $500 or so, at least cover your gas for the race. And then, we're going to pick Barry, and he's going to get the yellow car. It's going to be last place. Now, if you had a choice, you would pick the red car, right? Adrian would say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Whoever it is, right? I'm taking that red car if you're giving it to me. Why do we look at all these other things out there and not pick our first place when we're looking at performance or proof? And a lot of that is because, quite frankly, of advertising and myths, not science, as well as what you actually get to see in an outcome. So keep that in mind. Where that comes into play is the first thing that's missing when I work with athletes. That's always surprising to me. It's that phytonutrients. Whether you study how food changes the performance or genes from expressing into disease to get the performance that you want and repair, it's the phytonutrients. They're the small items that are very, very small, that work like an orchestra, that work together to help your muscles, to help all of your energy systems work properly. And they're also what helps you repair when you're performing.
Yeah.
Because if you are performing at a high level, John knows this, he did not have this.
Yeah, it's in the slide here, it says food is fuel, but not everything you eat is food. Okay. I was calorie bound. I was needing 6,000 to 10,000 calories a day. I would drink a quart of whipping cream in order to get the calories. So I was working from a macronutrient perspective and not a perspective of knowledge. Nowadays, there's so much information. There's so much marketing out there. I mean, if you pull into a McDonald's might be considered a treat. I don't consider McDonald's food. Food is, you need nutrient density. Everything, if you're on top of your game, everything these days that you're putting into your body, on your body, anything that has to do with your health related, you got to think through, am I getting the best bang for the buck? So if I'm having a treat and I'm pulling into a fast food restaurant, they say it's fast food, but it's fast fuel. There's no nutrient density there.
Right.
So why eat that when you can eat something better to help fuel yourself to get up for your next workout or to recover from the one you just did?
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about here, because those phytonutrients are what also help with the damage that you've produced from overtraining. Athletes overtrain. That's absolutely known. And one of the things we'll talk about is how that works exactly. So one of the things we're going to talk about in relationship to these are something called Juice Plus. If you haven't heard about it, what it is 30 different fruits and vegetables. I laugh because when I talk to people, I've actually had someone say this to me a month ago, and that's why I've been using it. Hey, that's not very sexy. And I'm like, actually, fruits and vegetables are very sexy because you're going to actually have better health. You're going to have better performance, but you've got to get it in at a high level. What's unique about the Juice Plus is that it's whole food harvested with peak ripeness. So it's, again, grown until it's ready to be picked. Then it's pulverized. It's not juice. This is very important because it's all the phytonutrients, not taking pieces and parts out of it that change how your body reacts to it, because the body knows what to do with food. The plant powders are in chewables and they're also in capsules. And then there's a full spectrum of essential fatty acid that we'll talk about a little bit more. One of the things that's very different is you can register and you can look at the back label. Number one, it's a nutrition facts label. It is not a dietary supplement. The second thing is all of its food. Now, when we're talking about athletes, there's that whole issue sometimes around calories, nutrient density, all these different things, macronutrients. If you are concerned or you've got a weight class or things like that, or you have a certain carb to protein to fat ratio that you're looking at, then use the capsules. You don't have to worry about any carbohydrates. Doesn't matter what plan you're eating, whether it's you, your coach, or what's working for your body. So then stick with the capsules. The chewables are excellent when you are really working out long or you have a sweet tooth. So they really do taste like a candy gummy, but they are not.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things I like about the Juice Plus is how simple it is in terms of the nutrient density. Yeah. So if you're getting ready for your day and you're having your Juice Plus capsules, there's 3 different varieties here. You take a look at the picture, you see everything that's there. It's the regular daily intake of the phytonutrients from the variety that causes a lot of the healing internally. And so this is my breakfast every morning. It's a very efficient way of going about it. I have that in a shake, but everybody's different. If you're on a weight gain program, maybe you're having handfuls of nuts throughout the day and some other things like that. Yeah. But this is a good way of bridging the gap because, we all try, but we don't really, in our everyday lives, we're not as successful as we'd like to be in terms of getting this type of nutrition in.
Yeah. And I consider it front loading. When I work with athletes, you want to front load your nutrient density because you're busy during the day. You're not making 14 meals. If you're lucky, you get to bring things with you, depending on where you're training and again, what your facility's like. And of course, different levels that allow you to prepare, depending if you're traveling. So it's very easy to do. As we mentioned, a few things that's important is one, it's a food. It is not a multivitamin. It has a nutrition facts label, like a bag of carrots. It is non-GMO and it's tested for over 200 contaminants. It's dairy and gluten-free. It's also vegan, kosher, all the different rules. So I don't have to ask you anything about what your body can handle or doesn't handle. The NSF standard is actually how I found the Juice Plus 21 years ago. I was working with lots of professional athletes in a company pharmacy internationally. And when you work with athletes internationally or collegiate one, different countries have different rules. So one of the things you want to look at is you want to make sure any kind of powders, capsules, tablets, or anything processed that's not a whole food is third-party tested. That means that whatever started when it's manufactured, it's tested for over 200 contaminants. And the NSF standard is the highest standard for any athlete of any category worldwide. So you never have to worry with any of the Juice Plus products. One of the things I do want to say about this, because it came up last week with a different professional athlete, is he went and looked at the NSF list. NSF means it's non-contaminated. Doesn't mean if there's other products on the list that they're good for you. It just means at least you know it's not contaminated if you are a professional athlete. The other thing that's really important to know is that the Juice Plus is the most nutritionally researched product in the world. So again, you want race car number one in the world. There are over 46 medical studies. We're going to talk about the ones related to exercise as well as what happens in the body. So this is one of the studies as an example. This is a study that I actually went to Germany to see released in 2008 because it was one of the most dramatic studies ever done with the Cobras, which are an elite force in Europe. They are extremely young, fit men that have rigorous exercise, not 8 hours a day, 24 hours a day, 3-4 days in a row. And what they did is they took them and had them, they already were on special multivitamins and different things. Then they put half of them on the Juice Plus capsules, fruit, vegetable, and berry. They showed immediately a reduction in marker of oxidative stress due to over-exercising, overtraining, as well as, of course, they know how to use weapons. And they also had a horrible virus that went through. And they showed that there were several indicators of immune markers. And even with imagine, even as an athlete, right? You don't want to have diarrhea 5 days in a row. Again, you're not going to be able to train or go out in the field. And that's one of the things that they show. It shortened the duration even when they did get sick. So the Cobras to this day do use the Juice Plus. So it was one of the studies that was the first that was extreme intense exercisers. And I went to see the actual researcher release it. It was an interesting experience because I didn't know when I went that was going to be in German. So I had to wear earphones and everything. So it was a really interesting experience. So it was pretty cool. All right. If you guys haven't been to Germany, pretty nice place. All right. So why is that study important to you? Well, because when you over-exercise, now, if you're exercising 1 hour in the gym, 5-6 days a week, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about lifting heavy, super intense, high, short bursts or long-term, or again, when you're a professional athlete, we call it 2 or 3 a days, right? Where they're stretching, you're swimming, you're training, you're weightlifting, you're seeing PT, all these different things. So what happens is when you overtrain, and especially when you're lifting or high intensity, there's a marker that shows, it's called a protein carbonyl, that's damage to your cells. So what happens is then it increases your inflammation, risk for cell damage, including injuries for tendons, muscles, cartilage, all of it. And what they showed is when the athletes were on the Juice Plus, they had improved protein carbonyl even within 30 minutes after all forms of exercise. If they forgot or didn't take their Juice Plus up to 1 week, it still reduced their protein carbonyl damage that was done from over-exercising.
Yeah.
So
one of the things when I was in college that set me apart, and I always said in order to get to the Olympic level, it's like pushing a pea up a hill every day with your nose, and you just do it every day, and that's your goal. And so sooner or later, but I used to think every night before I'd go to bed, or my friends were going downtown to party, that kind of stuff, I would always think, what am I doing today that will improve my workout for tomorrow? Because I had goals. And with protein carbonyl oxidative stress is basically, it's helping you it's inhibiting you from repairing efficiently. And if you can keep your oxidative stress levels down, you can sneak in an extra workout or 2 per week, or your recovery time will be less. It goes back to the old Bulgarians where they were doing 3 lifting workouts a day, and they were getting in so many workouts because they were supplementing and doing other things perhaps. But your recovery time and period is extremely important if you're going for the highest levels of training.
yeah. Yeah, it's really important. So if you don't know about this marker, this is just something to help you understand again what damage is being done from overexercising. So this is important why I've always, even with high school athletes and college athletes that I volunteered a lot, I did a lot of volunteer work for Heidi's, and we did for her volleyball club as well as my son's college tennis team because of this. And John can attest to this with athletes, that 50% or more of athletes would take an ergogenic aid, which is just something that helps increase their performance, even if it was guaranteed to kill them within 1 to 2 years.
Yeah. See, I always heard that was closer to like 90% at the Olympic level.
Yeah.
These are people whose entire lives, from morning until sleep, they're only thinking about one thing.
Yep.
Winning Olympic medals, setting world records,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And it's a pretty amazing statement, but in
Yeah.
the mindset of the elite athletes, it's true.
Yeah. And that's why we like doing these for coaches, trainers, the athletes, so that we make sure you do need to take things. I'm going to tell you, when I test any athlete, I've never seen anyone be able to eat their way there. And usually they're taking all sorts of things that actually do not help. They're testimonial or miss, and I can show them measurements that showed it is not working. And they're usually coming to because they're not recovering, or they're getting sick a lot, or they're having recurring injuries. So it's important to understand why we want to talk about this, especially if you're a coach or a trainer or have a gym. So one of the things with the Juice Plus is there's 11 medical studies that are directly related to oxidative stress and exercisers. I just put 2 on as an example, and you can talk to the person that invited you. If you are someone that likes to research, you don't need to. When we get through, you pretty much understand everything. But if you do want to understand, you can read one of these, like the Medicine and Exercise and Sports Exercise, one of the #1 exercise physiology journals in the United States. And it showed that, again, oxidative stress in advanced trained men was reduced and protected when they were on the Juice Plus capsules. Here's another one that showed the benefit of Juice Plus on any type of overexercisers and redox biology, which is something that I can measure in overweight but physically active women. And why this is important, I put the study up here, is because I've worked with a lot of football players. I went to school at Florida State, worked with Billy Bodden there. I worked with Bill Belichick when he was with the Cleveland Browns. And it was amazing when someone would come in and they're eating just buckets of chicken and this type of thing. And we just changed their diet some, of how their performance, their strength, their injuries go down. So we know that, again, different sports, I get a chill talking about it actually, different sports, especially when you're talking about football or certain classes, technically you're overweight. A lot of times you've got to be that, like with our hammer throwers and different, because you've got to have a lot of weight to perform when there's something that's really
it's tough to shoot a cannon from a canoe. So mass helps in the strength and explosive department. So we still want to make sure that we're protecting that person so they can stay in that field as that expert. Now, where essential fatty acids come in, they are vital. I have said since I have been in my 20s that it is not an option. Every single person, not just an athlete. An athlete, you're going to see where it needs 2 to 10 times the amount of essential fatty acids. The problem is people go and they go get a fish oil from a store. And if it's not the right form, it actually hurts your pathways that affect your concentrated essential fatty acids that go around those nerves and bundles. And so they directly help with joints, heart, brain, as well as that functioning of the gut to the brain. That's very important when you're an athlete. You got to think fast. You have concentrated or very, very ballistic moves. So what's nice about this one is I don't have to ask anything again, because do you have a seafood allergy? Do you have problems with cholesterol? All these things, any age, because it's plant-based. It is from the actual algae, and it does have the EPA and DHA. There's been a test I've used for 20 years called an omega index test. That is an 8-page report that looks at every essential fatty acid in the body. And now this one actually has a study with that exact test I've used for 20 years. So I like to make sure people are getting the right thing. And of course, Valerie is concerned about the health and science of it. Me as an ex-jock with 20 plus surgeries and all kinds of orthopedic damage, the thing I like about it best in terms of omegas is I don't have to really think about pounding any kind of ibuprofen every day. When you've got knees that are sore from squat workouts and your shoulders are you know, I mean, who isn't doing upper body work where their shoulders aren't feeling tore up the next day? So omegas are really important in terms of keeping things in check and helping to heal and feel better from the workouts.
Yeah, it's particularly an anti-inflammatory, but it doesn't interfere with the process.
It's like nature's ibuprofen.
That's right. Yeah. And the problem I have when athletes use it once in a while, it's okay. But the problem is not even when we're talking about liver damage or stomach bleeding, it's that it interferes with the actual healing process. You can Google that yourself on any meta. There's lots of exercise physiology studies that say if you're using ibuprofen and NSAIDs, non-steroid anti-inflammatories, to help with your recovery, you're actually impeding your own body's healing process, including how you're going to remake muscle properly. So you don't want your training to be wasteful. You want it to be the way it should
it's
be.
not just about feeling better, it's about getting better and recovering from the workouts, and that can impede it, the progress. Whereas the omegas, it's all positive. There's no downside.
Yeah. And when you're getting a plant-based, you don't have to worry about belching and all that stuff. You can open it, put it all in a smoothie in the morning. You can also put it on your skin if you've got any scarring or any type of non-open wound, and that type of thing. So it's really helpful with a lot of my athletes who are out in the sun a lot. Okay. So again, I just gave you one study as an example. This is where they did a whole review. A systemic review means they looked at every medical study ever published around exercise, performance, and essential fatty acids. Essential is called essential because your body does not make them. So that means that EPA and DHA, those two omega-3s, directly have an anabolic effect. That means it helps you build up muscle and keep what you've worked so hard for. It counteracts, thank you, delayed onset muscle soreness, which we all want.
It doesn't affect speech impediment.
There we go. This is why it's fun to do it with John, right?
Yeah.
You know, husbands are going to give you some crap, right? After working with male athletes mainly, I've heard it all. Believe me, I'm pretty tough. So improved endurance capacity, burning fat, reaction time, skeletal muscle recovery, post-exercise nitric oxide responses. So again, you want to be doing the right foundation, not taking all these other things unless you've got the foundation right. Okay. So essential fatty acids are imperative for performance at every single age. Everyone I've ever measured are deficient, which is just sad to me because it also goes into different types of diseases. So when we talk about Juice Plus, it is the official USA volleyball partner, and there's many, many professional athletes. I picked Ricky Prowl because we were sitting at somewhere we were traveling. We're sitting next to him. We were talking to him the whole time. Didn't even realize it was him. But Ricky Prowl is a pretty awesome guy. You know, what's really neat about him is he played 17 years of NFL. His sons have, but what was really neat is he's extremely give back type of guy. When you talk to people in the sports field or NFL, if they know Ricky, what they always say is that, yeah, he was a wide receiver. He was great. He always had an impact, but it was during retirement with what he did with multi-sports facility in Greensboro, North Carolina. That was his biggest impact. So he's a really neat guy also, besides being tough, strong, and raising boys that also played football for NFL and the Vikings. So, you know, I just want you to know there's lots of professional athletes. Whoever invited you today, if that's interest to you, then you can actually, they can give you their website, and there's an athletics section where you can read those studies. You can also see who else is directly Olympians and so on. They don't have everybody on there, but they have a few. So that's always just interesting, I think, to people that are other athletes. So when we talk about that, the reason I'm going to talk about post-exercise meal timing is whenever I work with teams outside of individual needs, this is always what I focus on first, because this is shocking to me, whether I'm working with a high school team, a college team, or a high-level team. They do not do this. The number one thing, if you really want to stretch your ability to have energy on your next day workout or your next workout, or repair your muscles that you're tearing down and breaking to increase that, muscle size, strength, and ability, is you want to have carbs and protein as soon as you're off the field. So when I tell people, if you're out on the track or the field, wherever you're at in the gym, and it's 60 minutes or longer, or extremely high tense and ballistic, like with John and sprinting and pole vaulting and all that, you want to have carbs and protein soon as you're done. What I would teach groups is that you have your shake in the locker room. You have it, then you take your shower, then you get dressed. There we go. I think someone had a shake there. Was that Adrian? Yeah. All right, Adrian. All right, now we're going to find out if you're having the right shake. That's the next thing.
But what's the most important shake of the day? Is it your first shake of the day in the morning, or is it your post-workout shake? Because in training rooms across America now, if you go into the Nebraska football weight room, they have, coolers full of post-workout, so that when they're done lifting, on the way out the door, they're grabbing it.
Yeah.
Now that's great when you're an athletic program and somebody's willing to fund that for you and put it in there.
Yeah.
But by the time you get back to your training table in college, by the time you get back home from the gym, you've already missed that window. That window is very important.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you're done working out, you've got 20 to 30 minutes to refuel. So, everything that you've done from your workout is now looking for and reaching up for some type of nutrition to really replenish yourself. And the window is important.
Yeah, it really it helps that glycogen stores for the energy in your muscles for the next workout, and starts repairing those, so your delayed onset, hopefully soreness, is less.
Or if it's between sessions. I just spoke with somebody yesterday.
Yeah.
They're going for a long run, and then they get in the gym for a 2 to 3 hour wrestling workout, and they weren't fueling in between the two. So you finish with a run. Now you've got another 2.5 to 3 hours on the mat, and then they're lifting as well. So that's where the shakes come in. That's where some type of a bar, something that you can refuel in between training sessions.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the complete shake specifically. Make sure you have carbs and protein, and then that's where the complete, you can have that, so that no matter what, you don't have to bring anything with you. Or you could have a bar, or you could have the Perform if you need a higher protein, and then you can have 1 to 2 servings of carbs if you prefer food and can get food when you're training. When my son was traveling with tennis, he was the only one that always had stuff in his tennis bag, because when you're on a plane or you're in a van, you're at the mercy of who's stopping.
Yeah.
So he learned very quickly. He was the only one that always had a jar of, almond butter, peanut butter, bars, his shake, and they would all beg him. They would pay him big money just to give him a shake, because these guys, in college would not plan. So again, makes a big difference.
Yeah, prep for everything is important, because if you don't prep, if you don't plan on being a pro, you won't be a pro. You have to think and prep like a pro in order to get there these days.
Yeah, and that's what's nice about what we're going to talk about next, is the ease of it. So one of them example is the plant proteins actually have some of the most proof. The complete shake, the reason I like this a lot for athletes is you don't have to have anything else. So like with my son as an example, and even our daughter Heidi, they can siphon it even to a water bottle and shake it, because it's got 7 grams of fiber, 6 different plant proteins. It's gluten and dairy free. It's got 20 grams of carbs, 13 grams of protein. Now, my bigger players, they would do 2 scoops of these, but they don't have to worry about, can they get a banana? Can they get a sandwich? Can they get a meal an hour later? So it's really terrific, and they taste good. It also comes in individual packets. And the good thing about the packets is you can have it in your gym bag, you can have it in a backpack, you can have it at the front desk, you can have it in the moving van, anywhere that you're at, so that you were never, ever stuck without it.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about temperature control or any of that stuff. So you don't have a bottle of something sitting in your gym bag or riding around in the car getting hot. This is something that's it's a no-brainer. It takes about 5 seconds to get yourself probably one of the highest nutrient dense, healthiest shakes on the market. And it actually tastes good.
Yeah, and it is the number one. The doctor of public health, a PhD, Dr. Roy Bedubarian, compared all the shakes out there years ago for nutrient density. That means had the most nutrition for the calories, and it blew everything away. Didn't matter, it was compared to Metrex, medical shakes, all these different things that you know about that are popular, but don't necessarily have the research. The other shake is the Perform. The Perform was tested for a few years specifically with only high-level professional athletes. Solomon, what's his first name? Solomon Simmons. Solomon Simmons is also a decathlete. We had a nice conversation with him about when he added the Perform to also his performance. And it's 25 grams of protein. It's got actually food forms of B vitamins. It's got the beetroot and cherry. So people that need that extra boost of energy, that really do find they get a little run down because of overtraining, it's really great. All of these have the NSF standard, so we know there's no contaminants, there's no steroids, there's nothing that's going to cause any kind of drug test in any form, including a polygraph, and it's vegan, dairy, gluten-free. So again, a lot of people, it's only 6 grams of natural sugar. So if you do have this, unless you're on a certain plan, which everybody's different, you can have 2 scoops of this for the 25 grams of protein. But again, if you've trained for 60 minutes or longer, you want some kind of carb there. But that's where you could have a banana, or you can prepare your shake ahead of time. And it comes with a scoop, and it does shake very well with just water.
Yeah, and if
So that's important.
And if you're not doing shakes and you're an athlete, or if you're training athletes, really these days, to get the amount of protein in there, you got to be doing some type of a shake. So why, if you're going to take a shake, why would you not pick kind of like the Rolex or the Rolls Royce of shakes? If you're an 80 kilo or like 175 to 200 pound male athlete that's training a 2 to 3 hour day, or in the gym or training someone else, you're looking at 150 grams of protein to 200 plus, depending on the intensity. And how are you going to get that without doing shakes? Shakes, you just have to turn to shakes these days in order to get it. Yeah.
And the other thing that we found is when they look at studies, the reason milk years ago was part of that is because it's a perfect carb to protein ratio, but it causes inflammation. So that is not something I teach any of my athletes to do, but it's also because of liquid. When you have a liquid, as soon as you're done working out, that's where every person, even a lay person, gets an advantage to the aging tissues as well as the inflammatory response.
Bioavailability is almost instantaneous, especially if it's a cool liquid.
Yeah, and I teach my athletes after that, after you shower or whatever, you get home, or when you're going to the cafeteria, you got to eat a full meal after that. But you still, even when I time people, they are never within that window if they don't do this. So it's one of the things you can teach any of your athletes to do. For people that really have trouble with just shakes, that even a few of our, especially our Olympians, they've got to have multiple sources because they can be stuck for hours somewhere on a field, on a train, on a bus. We've had everything happen. So the bars are really great. There's 10 grams of protein, 5 grams of fiber. They're about 250 a bar. They're fast and easy. Again, gluten, dairy-free, so I don't have to ask you any of your medical problems, stomach ache, any of that stuff. I don't have to worry about it. It's non-GMO, it's water wash, which is, again, how it's manufactured is clean. And there's a dark chocolate fig, and there's a soy-free tart cherry. The best thing is the dark chocolate is so good warm. Oh my gosh, we warm them up. My son once left a box in the windshield when we were at a tennis tournament all day that was over 100 degrees. And we found out the easy way that they're super good warm, and they don't have a chocolate
It's like having a nice warm brownie.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah. And they don't have a chocolate coating. So they could be in your bar, your bag, or your gym. And
it doesn't turn into a complete mess like a Milky Way bar in the old days.
So you can keep it easily. So why do we want all of this phytonutrients, this high level nutrition, especially the plant-based? Because that's what the body recognizes. Because an injured athlete means you've already gone too past far oxidative stress. When you breathe in oxygen and you're overworking out, you are creating oxidative stress. Why is this important? Because this is what causes disease and injuries. So that's why we want our athletes to be.
It's a cumulative effect.
Correct.
Because there is an inordinate amount of injuries occur. Well, not just because you're tired and fatigued, like a lot of injuries occur in the fourth quarter of a football game, but later on in the season, it's the cumulative effect of being beat up by having all these hits to your body. And if you're not able to overcome it, there's a definite response athletically, where in volleyball, you have people that are playing volleyball all season with no injuries, and then all of a sudden half the team is getting injured in the latter third of the season. It's all because they're just eventually breaking down. So injuries with oxidative stress, because athletes overtrain, that's part of what you picked. And coaches and trainers are part of this too, because you're usually training, you're showing, you're out on the mat or in the gym a long time. So you need it also. Joint overuse, of course, any athlete, a tennis player, of course, is using it with serves over and over, and volleyball and football and many different sports. Overuse of joints or one particular side of the body. You need 2 to 10 times the phytonutrients. So a non-athlete with regular stress needs 10 to 17 raw servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Nobody does that in a variety. An athlete needs 2 to 10 times. I remember when some of our athletes, was it Brazil? All they said they could get were bananas. That's it.
They're like, thank God we had our bars, our shakes, and our Juice Plus capsules. I mean, they were like, can't eat 10 bananas a day, just was very ineffective for their training.
I could try.
Well, you probably could eat 10 bananas, but you would want more food too. So, and the other thing that I'm always concerned about with athletes is there are 3 or 4 things you may not know about overtraining that is negative for your body. You have quicker aging, including skin wrinkling, as well as tissue and joint degradation, higher risk of long-term depression and lower serotonin and dopamine. That affects your cognitive functioning, your Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia risk, not to mention these athletes that have constant concussions, whether you're talking about soccer or football or a boxer, of course, gut health and cancer. And so what happens, or when someone is on a lot of medication, we're not talking about that today, but just another thing that causes that oxidative stress. The oxidative stress, then also, we also can see where I just used one example. I could just give you example after example with muscles, but I chose a ligament one because it's more common, right? With even if you're a coach or you're working with someone in the gym, is acute ligament injuries. And what they show is that a protein deficiency during the injury will delay all 3 phases of healing properly. And there's 3 phases if you're not familiar: inflammation, fibroblastic, and remodeling. You actually need 40 to 60 more grams of protein at least 7 to 21 days as soon as you have an injury or a surgery. You will repair faster. And when you look at these are all studies. When I used to teach at over at Kent State and another university in Ohio, I would teach to the PhD physical therapists. Nobody knew this. So people are going to physical therapy, they're going to their trainers, they're working hard. They are not talking about this. You have a window of 7 to 21 days that you need 40 to 60 more grams of lean protein. And you can do it through chicken and egg whites and so on. But again, when you're injured and you're not feeling well, it's pretty difficult to do. So, and that's above your normal amount. Even if you are 95-pound gymnast, you actually need at least 40 more. Okay, 60 would be someone that's 180 pounds or more. So again, it's extremely important. And it's important as soon as you're done with the injury. If you have a serious injury and surgery, it can be up to 6 months. Part of how this was founded, and when I recommended it to surgeons and my PT people and so on, was because when I worked in the burn unit at the Cleveland Clinic, you have to increase protein and they heal so much faster. So then I started looking at studies with athletes. It's so interesting. It's all out there, but nobody seems to teach it. So we want to be prepared because we're all going to have possible ligament tears, twists, injuries, or more serious injuries. So you want to be able to do that. You also need nutrient density. I mean, you can't be eating ribs for the protein. You got to be eating chicken and egg whites and the plant proteins. Okay. And then the antioxidants. Antioxidants are not vitamin E and C. Those actually interfere, especially if you're a higher exercise person. So interesting that we have all these things that people are taking all these extra E's and C's and multivitamin, and they actually show they interfere with part of the insulin pathways that athletes naturally have a better propensity to have, except when they're having high level synthetic vitamins. So we don't want to interfere with any of the body's natural ability to repair through the food. The body knows what to do with the food.
Right. One of the benefits of having a Juice Plus in your background in terms of every day is, vitamins. Yeah, everybody's marketing works, right?
Yep.
So everybody's getting the multivitamins or taking multiple vitamins.
Right.
And there's no need for any of that if you're eating Juice Plus, because it is food and there's enough variety every day that all the phytonutrients are handled. All your elements and all your vitamins that you need, the B's and everything else, it's all in there because it naturally occurs in food if you have the right variety, especially on a daily basis.
Yeah, and the amount. And that was one of the things that some of the exercise physiology studies did, is they looked at athletes taking extra E, extra C, so on, compared it to the Juice Plus, just like the Cobras. It just blew it away, is how the food and the body knew what to do with it better and had better response, not just in the antioxidant levels, but in the immune system, which when you overtrain, your immune system's naturally lowered also. So you want to offset that. The other reason that personally, why I always didn't overdo things. I would have loved to have done more bodybuilding shows, or not more marathons. I really didn't enjoy those, but I did them because when you work with athletes, you better know what you're doing, and how much work it is. But is cancer risk, because you're over breathing oxygen and you need 10 times, 2 to 10 times, but most, when we're talking about this group, probably a lot more than even double of the 10 servings. One of the biggest risks are cancer, because the cell turnover is higher with higher oxygen.
Yeah.
And the best way to offset it is not multivitamins. It's extreme amounts of fruits, vegetables, and plant proteins. We get back to the same thing over and over.
Some working out is very healthy.
Yes.
Excessive working out is actually not very healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if it's your field, we're not going to tell an athlete not to be an athlete, or if you're a coach or you're in a gym, I would still love to work out.
But
I work out every day.
you have to accept the road you're on.
Yeah. And you got to learn to offset it, so that you can be as healthy as possible. For those of you that work with children, have children, or maybe want to have children someday, the Healthy Starts Family now is a study that's had over 1.5 million children studied with the Juice Plus and the adults. And if adult takes the Juice Plus, a child or a full-time undergraduate college student up to the age of 24, if they have a coach or a parent that takes it, can get it free up to 20 years. If they start at age 4, they could have it actually for 20 years. And let's say you started and you're a college student and you're, 18, you can get it up to age 24 for free, at least the fruits and vegetables. It's the biggest nutritional intervention study ever done. These are just some of the statistics. 61% after 1 year of consuming the Juice Plus were eating more fruits and vegetables. 71% were eating less junk food. 66% were visiting less doctors, and 56% had less prescription or medication. When I ran a compounding pharmacy, we found that the percentage was higher. But the reason I think the percentage was higher is because I was educating them. These are kids that let's say Barry's taking it and he's got, his nephew on it, or a son on it, or a client on it that's, in a martial arts group or something. They're not getting educated about it. So these things worked. And the reason is, again, when your body gets a lot of phytonutrients from fruits and vegetables, things change. Even people that say they will not change, that they always like junk food, it does change. So it's a sneaky way.
Yeah, changes up here. You crave healthier foods.
Yeah, so it's really great. So it's wonderful. You talk to the person that invited you, and they can get you more information about the study. So the other issue is that sometimes, again, when you have a client or you own a gym, you've got overhead. If you're a traveling athlete, John one time didn't have a bed to sleep in for a few months in between events.
That was 1985 national championships.
Hard to believe.
I won the decathlon, and I spent the night before the competition in the back of my pickup truck in the parking lot of the stadium.
When you're really performing, or you have a lot of overhead, or all your time is spent not earning an income, it's difficult. So what's nice is that if you're interested and really like the Juice Plus, whether you're an athlete or a gym owner or a coach, you can have a national, international opportunities. If someone moves an athlete, you can still work with them. I have athletes that take Juice Plus all over the world. They don't need your services anymore. Athletes outgrow gyms and different things sometimes. You establish a long-term relationship no matter where someone lives. You can get referrals. You can also cover your overhead, and there are benefits at the top. So you could have income while training. So it's definitely something to consider if that's a concern. That is interest you. I know one of the things everyone's always worried about, is there an overhead or a big type of thing you have to commit to? The answer is no. It's $52 a year. And so it is not anything where you have inventory. So that's why a lot of athletes are involved, that they need a lot of the product themselves, and then they certainly can share it with other athletes and colleagues. So your next step, we're going to take questions, I promise. We're going to, we want to make sure you're teaching and learning accuracy for yourself, your clients, your fellow, athletes. You want to hopefully start on the Juice Plus products. You want to sign on as a partner, you can, and then order your products. You can talk to the person that invited you, and then, let the person that invited you or us know if you have a specific topic of interest. I tried to pick things when we were putting this together that just knowing who is going to be on would be hopefully another level that maybe you didn't know. But I know sometimes there's specific topics that athletes and coaches, when we used to speak to a lot of the other groups, obviously, sometimes it's just weight gain. Sometimes it's just post-recovery. Sometimes it's, going into all the phases of healing.
And depending on the individual or the group, you've got a lot of myths out there.
Yeah.
You also have a lot of situations where the best and the worst advice you get are from everybody else that's in the gym.
Yeah,
Because it's always the guy that's big and jacked that has all the advice for everybody, and then everybody jumps on whatever they're doing. And that tends to change. But is it the healthiest thing, or is it the biggest bang for the buck? So,
yeah,
you know, these are all things that I would want my kids to be involved with,
yeah,
people that I care about. So there's zero, you know, there's no negative benefit to eating healthier
yeah.
and
that's for
having
sure.
that, you know, the really a world-class product.
Yeah. So why don't we, especially, you know, the guests, do you want to, if you have any questions, do you have any comments? So we know anything on your mind that we didn't answer that's bugging you, or other questions, we'd love to answer them for you.
Stop the recording, or?
Yeah, I'm going to stop the recording. That way, if you have something that's